and get that going. So, how is everybody doing today?
Good.
I hope everybody's getting
Great.
some warmer weather. I don't know, we're all kind of spread out globally, but we're definitely getting some warmer weather here. Um, so I have a topic that I'm going to cover today, go through some slides, but I was talking with some of the coaches and Charlotte has a couple questions. So I wanted to start with a Q&A and then we can get into our topic. So Charlotte, whenever you are ready, I'm happy to unpack that with you.
My eyeball is watering so bad, so I'm like trying to look at this question now. I'm sorry. This is
Okay,
very untimely.
no problem.
Um, all right. So my first question is for it's trimethylglycine. And have you taken it? It was a supplement question from a client. Um, wondering about that. I need to go grab
Yeah,
some
yeah,
more.
yeah, absolutely. Allergies, maybe. Um, so trimethylglycine has some interaction with the homocysteine metabolism. Some people will use it to help with detoxification or methyl donation. I think it can be beneficial for people. Let me see if I can get you an image of where trimethylglycine works. So we have a idea. Let's see. Methylation process. And let's see. There we go. So I think it just depends on context, like most things. If I'm looking at this, this talks about epigenetics and metabolism. I knew there was a cool picture. Let's see if I can expand on this. So TMG is going to work inside this process of making SAMe, which helps with the methionine cycle. So some people, they may take, like a methylated B complex, but they may need trimethylglycine on top of that to make SAMe. SAMe is going to help with reductions of neurotransmitters. So some people will take it like a homeopathic doctor would give it in circumstances to help with mood stability is something I see. I also see just kind of helping this cycle spin efficiently so you can get to this end product of glutathione. What was the context for this client? What was the reason they were interested in it or wanting to use it?
Just kept showing up in their feed. So they were just curious, like, what is it for? What is the benefits? And you know how that works with.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some benefit to it. I think, like, unfortunately, with social media and with everything, there's so much hype around every single thing. So it can make it hard for consumers to figure out what they need. What I always tell people is like, you can do really elaborate methylation testings that are really expensive. I think Gary Brecka sells one for like $800. I usually tell people start with like a homocysteine because it's relatively inexpensive. And if that's abnormally high, then you could potentially look at further testings because there's a couple cycles involved there. I would assume this client was looking at COMT issues, so estrogen detoxification and or methylation issues, and then the algorithm picked up on that and started flooding her feed with it. I think it can definitely have some application. I use homocysteine supreme and it has it included in there. I run a higher homocysteine, so it does help lower mine. There's health benefits to that. And then there's also like some people explain mental improvements there as well, if that's cognition or ADHD or depression. So I would say there could be some overlaps for somebody trying to figure out what's going on from those contexts. I think it's a good supplement. Again, it's this context I think matters most.
Yeah, this client deals with like balancing thyroid medications, BHRT, and just trying to feel constantly optimized or catch up to feeling like their best self. So I think it's always that rat race of like, how do I feel better? How do I feel better? And what's going to be the next thing that gets me there? Or sleep better, or. So there's a lot of balance to be had. So I think that was why it was thrown out to her. And then she had another question. I don't want to go next to it if you're not done with that one.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Talking about menopause symptoms and just kind of curious if you've heard a lot of women dealing with these issues of not being able to swallow or feeling like there's a lump in their throat correlating to menopause symptoms. Um, because this had just happened to this client and she's going through that. She's like, this is so wild. And so she's a part of this other menopause group, and several other, I think, women had expressed like, I'm having the symptom. It was, and then a lot of others like, this is normal in menopause, as far as like feeling like you can't swallow pills very well, just like an overall blockage in the throat, like to a certain extent. So I'm just curious if you had heard of that as a
I
symptom before.
personally have never heard of that. I see all kinds of symptoms though. I'm sure we all do. Ashley's doing GI and she probably hears all kinds of crazy symptoms. So I think it's just person dependent. I'm not really sure. Um, I had met with one of our clients who just signed up in this program not that long ago, and she has a hard time swallowing pills. She's 66. This could be the same client. But yeah, she's had scoping done. There's nothing wrong structurally. I think that would be my concern. Like, we're not doctors here. We can't give medical advice. We can talk about topics, but like, if it's an ongoing thing, maybe making sure structurally everything's okay. Oh,
One thing that I'll add to that, I mean, I agree, like, let's obviously make sure there's not something physically going on. And this may be completely unrelated, but I would ask about stress and anxiety because anxiety can give that feeling like there's like your heart's in your throat sort of feeling. And if very anxious, it literally feels like you can't swallow as well, even though you can. So, just another thought, that's a very common anxiety related feeling. So,
that's really good feedback. I didn't even think about that.
When estrogen drops, does anxiety go up?
It can. I
So there's
think,
a correlation there too. Like,
yeah, I think it could potentially be swinging hormones. Lisa, I see that you unmuted. Go for it. I'd
oh,
love to hear
sorry.
your.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. No, I was gonna say it could be thyroid related. I was just thinking just because I've had this happen in the past at the height of my Hashimoto's, I felt like a lump was in my throat like perpetually. It was very hard to swallow, and I even had to get like I don't know, it was a sonogram or a CAT scan or something of the thyroid just to make sure there was no like nodules or whatnot. So I don't know, Charlotte, was your client, was that the same client with the thyroid issue or did she
Yeah,
have?
it's just been a long road to balancing out the thyroid with the compounded. So,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
it could be something to look into. Just again, not just based on my experience, but I've heard that though too. Sometimes if you have difficulty swallowing, neck pain or just like tightness in the throat area,
mhm.
yeah, just could be something to look into.
Sounds like more investigating for sure. But yeah, I think it could be a combination of a lot of different things, and then trying to put that together can be uh process for sure. But I would say structurally, I think Ashley has validity. I think Lisa has validity. So it's kind of like maybe create her checklist, and so she could work through those different things probably would be my recommendation.
Okay, sounds good. That's all I got.
Cool. I had two things pop up here in our chat. So we have somebody here on this call who's had that as well, started T3 and it went away. So the very interesting to Lisa's point, my mother's first symptom when her thyroid is off is difficulty swallowing. So yeah, I think that those would be check marks to kind of work through with that client and see if you can pinpoint what's going on. Um, so let me see. I'm going to come into a share screen. So we talk a lot about different topics here. I wanted to kind of go into drug metabolism. I see a lot of clients coming in on different things, and I want to start this presentation by saying I don't think any drugs are bad, but just understanding context and interaction. Specifically, if you're dealing with symptoms that you may not you're taking one medication and you're having other symptoms, understanding how that drug could potentially impact things like microbiome, digestion, inflammation. So, this was from a book that I had read and am reading. I really like it. So this is James Lavelle. He's a pharmacist. I met him a couple years ago at a A4M conference. It's basically a festival with top pharmacies, speakers globally. And I really like a lot of his stuff. So if anybody's looking for a good read, this is super interesting. So this is on drug-induced microbiome disruption, and this talks about PPIs, so proton pump inhibitors, SSRIs, statins, metformins, commonly prescribed medications. And again, a lot of those therapies can be life-saving. So I'm not saying ditch those things, but just understanding the interaction and then potentially some nutrients you may need if you're using things like that. So, um, got one more person I'm going to let in here. Uh, so First, gut brain, your gut immune brain connection. So, the role of the gut in health and wellness. So, gut immune brain axis is crucial or critical for regulating hormone signaling, detoxification, mood, sleep, weight. A healthy gut microbiome supports overall health through the production of essential vitamins and neurotransmitters. So we've talked a lot about that. Ashley's done a lot on GI. We've talked a lot about microbiome, and just trying to connect some of the dots here, I think is a pretty cool concept. So understanding DIMD and the impact of drugs on gut health. So DIMD significantly alters gut bacteria diversity, contributing to various health issues. This disruption affects hormone balance, digestion, overall well-being, and ultimately can impact bodily functions. So some of the meat and potatoes of this book, they talk about birth control specifically. I think this really um, hits home for a lot of clients here. We get a lot of clients coming in on birth control, and I don't necessarily think like I'm not saying birth control is bad, but just understanding, some of the things that it can impact. So, bifidobacterium depletion, so oral contraceptives and hormone replacement therapy. Synthetic, I want to kind of put an asterisk there. Significantly reduce bifidobacterium levels, which are crucial for maintaining gut health and estrogen metabolism. Um, so that kind of ties into estrogen recirculation. So you have something called estrobolome in the GI tract, and the birth control can alter the estrobolome, causing an estrogen recirculation. Sometimes it can be hard to pinpoint on labs, just because oral contraceptive stops surges of progesterone can lower estrogen on paper, but it can cause issues with recirculation. So the depletion of beneficial bacteria leads to estrogen recirculation, contributing to hormonal imbalance associated with mood swings in individuals. I'd say that's a pretty common thing that we see. GI issues, mood changes, libido changes. The other things that can deplete nutrients. So birth control and synthetic hormones can cause deficiencies in vital nutrients like vitamin B6, B12, folate, impacting overall health and well-being. So if somebody is on a birth control, I would get an idea of am I covering things like B12, B6, folate in my diet? And if not, potentially do I need to supplement on top of it? Because we talked about trimethylglycine at the beginning of this call, and I showed a diagram. To reduce homocysteine and make antioxidants, you need all three of those B vitamins. You need B6, B12, and folate. So just kind of understanding what birth control can impact. Um, we've done several topics on its interaction with thyroid and other areas, but I really just kind of want to hone in on GI function. Um, so SSRIs and antidepressants as well. So again, I'm not saying antidepressants are the devil, just understanding context around them. So things like Prozac, Zoloft possess antimicrobial properties, so they can reduce beneficial bacteria such as lactobacillus and bifidobacterium in the gut microbiome, which can alter serotonin metabolism. So uh, these medications may diminish serotonin production by disrupting tryptophan metabolism, significantly affecting mood and overall well-being. I thought that was interesting. We think about SSRIs making us feel better. Well, a lot of your neurotransmitters are made in your gut, so you're going to have some altered metabolism there. And then potentially increase of lipopolysaccharides. Those are just gram-negative bacterias. The reduction in beneficial gut bacteria leads to an increase of lipopolysaccharides, which can trigger systemic inflammation and hormonal imbalances. We have the registered dietitian here, so I'd love her thoughts on it as well as we work through this. But I just like to kind of look through different lenses through different people. I'm always reading different books, and this one was really interesting to me because these are commonly prescribed. Getting into proton pump inhibitors or acid blockers, they reduce stomach acid. So proton pump inhibitors significantly reduce stomach acid, which is crucial for proper digestion and nutrient absorption. So a lot of things can cause acid reflux or indigestion. I think a blanket statement for most people is like, hey, take a PPI, take some Tums, but your stomach acid is going to play a role in being able to extract vitamins, minerals, things from food. So depletion of nutrients would be a process that happens there. So chronic use of PPIs, you could see deficiencies in essential nutrients like B12, magnesium, calcium, impacting overall health. Uh, and then potentially long-term use could increase risk for potential opportunistic overgrowth or overgrowth of bad bacteria. Um, I wanted to pause there. Ashley, do you see that to be true, like in GI maps for someone chronically using a PPI, that potentially having overgrown negative bacteria in the gut is a common thing?
I would say both with PPIs and SSRIs. I definitely see a correlation. I mean, obviously it's hard to know because there's so many reasons the gut could be imbalanced. But there are a lot of studies that have proven how much they impact things. So like 90% of our serotonin lives in the gut. So SSRIs specifically, like really work directly with gut bacteria. And so that one in itself, like it shifts all of it shifts the balance. And so for some people, it actually can improve things, and others, it can actually make things worse. And so it basically disrupts it essentially. And also just impacts motility, your nervous system, stuff like that. PPIs, so PPIs obviously, as we know, like work on stomach acid. However, the stomach acid is really important for how we break down protein and kill pathogens and absorb nutrients. And so again, when we disrupt that balance, it's a completely different digestive environment, essentially. And so there's just a higher risk with PPIs, with SIBO. And I often, when people have SIBO, it's very common that someone might have been on a PPI. Now, that doesn't mean there weren't, there's like a chicken and an egg thing here, because sometimes someone may have SIBO and consequently with those stuff, they're having reflux. So, so then they go on a PPI because they're trying to figure it out, right? So sometimes it's hard to know what's what. But if they went on the PPI first, or in general, it just disrupts that whole balance. So anyway, just much more higher risk for dysbiosis in general. Um, and then nutrient deficiencies, because PPIs, there are a lot of nutrient deficiencies tied to it. B12, iron, magnesium, calcium, zinc, stuff like that. And so again, we're just disrupting the balance in how we're absorbing things.
Last question for you, just as you do so much GI stuff. Do you really ever see maybe outside of ulcers use for PPIs, or do you think most of it could be managed like homeopathic.
Oh, I 100% think. Oh, I'm stuttering. I 100% think it can be dealt with homeopathically. Again, I think one of the biggest things is figuring out the root cause. Like why are we having reflux? A lot of times we can figure that out through a GI map, oftentimes, or reducing stress or whatever the case may be. But there are definitely over-the-counter supplements that can help reduce it. You can use a long term. They don't have long-term effects. And even those that I would have and do have people use to get off of PPIs. Because that's not an easy process either. If you're on a PPI, you don't want to go cold turkey. There's a huge rebound effect. It's not fun. So working your way down, same actually with SSRIs if you're on a higher dose. But PPIs are worse. So like working your way down while you're introducing the over-the-counter stuff, specifically things like slippery elm and DGL are two really big ones that I like to use.
Yeah, I really like DGL. You actually, I've talked about this a couple times, helped me a lot with my reflux. A lot of it is H. pylori and just not eating enough fiber at one point in time in my life. So, yeah, I think, mine was bad and I've had it since I was like 13. So, I think a lot of it can just lifestyle, nutrition, and over the counters can make a lot of impact. So, thank you for that.
Hmm.
Um, And antibiotics, and this is my wife's arm. I want to start with this. So my wife, this actually just happened probably in the past 2 months. She got mastitis from breastfeeding, and it happened 2 times in a row. And they put her on, oh my goodness, I don't remember which antibiotic. It happened on Christmas Day, and we were at urgent care for Christmas, and she got a round of antibiotics, and then uh, had another milk duct that clogged, and this is post use. And we went back to the doctor just because we wanted to figure out why this rash was present. It was spreading around her body. And they just basically said it's a post reaction of antibiotics, and they would give her a steroid cream. And this is our own personal thoughts on it. Again, this is not medical advice. This is just what we want to do in our house. We were wanting to avoid using steroid creams. So with the heavy use of antibiotics, because she needed it because she had an infection, um, we brought in a spore-based probiotic, and we were also doing some postbiotics like some butyrate to kind of help with this process. And it's slowly coming down. This was spread all over her body. So kind of looking through antibiotics and their disruptions because they are quite powerful, butyrate depletion. And Ashley, if you have any add-ons to this, please feel free. But antibiotics can significantly deplete butyrate-producing bacteria, impairing gut health and reducing production of essential short-chain fatty acids. Potential LPS release. So we talked about this on a couple of slides earlier. Disruption of caused by antibiotics can increase the levels of lipopolysaccharides in circulation, triggering systemic inflammation through the body. So I personally think, again, I'm not a dermatologist, that this was a histamine response. I think the probably some issues with gut barrier and just nuking a lot of good bacteria. Um, so systemic inflammation, antibiotics induce inflammation that may stall hormone metabolism, contributing to disruption of thyroid function, exacerbating symptoms of estrogen dominance and weight gain. We didn't have any of those things happening. It was really just this persistent rash that she was very self-conscious of. Have you ever seen anything like this, Ashley, with clients getting a rash from like heavy antibiotic use?
Well, what I was going to say is one of the things that antibiotics do is increase the risk of yeast overgrowth. So one of the things I have seen rashes, yes, with antibiotics, absolutely. I mean, but in general, there's also a big gut skin connection. So like, I mean, you said most of it. I just like antibiotics wipe out the good bacteria, bad bacteria, but good bacteria too, and it also really impacts the diversity of your different bacteria. And so it just completely throws it off. And there's a huge connection with skin and the gut. But yeah, I mean, that's what I was gonna say. There's, a lot more overgrowth possibilities, yeast overgrowth. You also tend to lose a lot of B vitamins, biotin, vitamin K with antibiotics as well. So, yeah, but I mean, like I said, huge skin gut connection. I mean, I would say it's a gut imbalance for the most part.
So this is going to live forever in our library and somebody will watch this. So what is your recommendation if you have to take an antibiotic? Because a lot of times they'll say, oh, just take a probiotic. What would be your uh, top two things you'd bring in post antibiotic use? Or if there's several things, go ahead.
What do you mean? Like, what you mean post, not during?
Or either during, post, say that somebody's on the back end of it. What would be your recommendation?
So definitely, I mean, I would say probiotics during are really important. I mean, that's huge. And also, I'm sure, a lot of people probably know, but antibiotics can also, cause diarrhea if you don't have a probiotic, and so that can help with that. So, during antibiotics, I think is really important. Saccharomyces boulardii is one of my favorite. It's really gentle. It's actually a yeast. And so that is one of my favorite for first, for first. I'm all over the place today. But after, I think it's really important to make sure you continue probiotics or add in a different type, some sort of multi-strain. I always say if you can do lactobacillus and bifidobacterium blend or have that in the blend, I think it's important, or spore-based or soil-based. Again, it kind of depends on what your gut's already like. I think that's really important. And then fiber. I mean, it's all of the things that help, if we think of our gut as like a forest or a rainforest or something. I mean, we've got to refeed it. We've basically like wiped out the good stuff, so you have to refeed it. So I think that's really important. And again, just like making sure you have really good fiber in there. And then maybe even repairing. I mean, L-glutamine, zinc carnosine. If you're not eating enough things that help butyrate too is another good one. So I don't know, those are kind of my big ones.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. All right, let's see. And then statins and metformin. And again, I take metformin. I'm going to start this slide with that. I have been taking metformin for years. Um, so I find that there are some health benefits with it from my personal biology. I have flirt with insulin resistance, I would say, if I don't use it. Um, so we'll look at statins and metformin. There's some common ground as far as depletion of certain things. So statins like Lipitor reduce microbial diversity, influencing the gut negatively and leading to various metabolic issues. Um, so some of the things that you can potentially see in with statins in some individuals is issues regulating glucose is one thing. Would probably be one of the top things that I see. It's going to change the way that how bile acids are produced because it's inhibiting cholesterol production at the liver. Um, Both can deplete nutrients, so such as CoQ10, vitamin D, zinc. Um, I thought B vitamin should be in here as well for metformin. So uh, there's some interesting things with metformin. So apparently metformin can increase akkermansia, which is a bacteria that feeds on the mucilin. Is that correct? Is that how I pronounce that? The bacteria. So it basically helps kind of create helps with the GI barrier. So metformin can help with the production of akkermansia, which may be beneficial for gut health. I think there's probably some asterisks around that. Everybody's unique, and I'm not saying that's a global statement. But if you have to take a statin, why would you not take CoQ10? Why would you not make sure you have zinc and um, vitamin D? I think looking at all of the potential interactions make a lot of sense. And with metformin, I take CoQ10 every day. I also take methylated B vitamins, D, zinc. I would say take pretty robust supplements, but just knowing the interactions could be beneficial. Metformin is one of the most commonly prescribed drugs globally. So, making sure you're covering your basis if you're using those. Um, And NSAIDs and opioids as well. So altered function. NSAIDs can disrupt small intestine function, leading to impaired nutrient absorption and GI distress in affected individuals. Increased bacteria, specifically the use of opioids, can raise staphylococcus and enterococcus, further complicating microbiome balance. And the thing would say that if you've ever broken a bone and you've had to take some sort of pain medicine, just the decreased motility is something I would say most people are probably aware of. So opioid medications lead to delayed or decreased gastric motility, which can lead to constipation and complications for people who are using those. So, I think that a lot of ways to manage inflammation, not talking pain management, but if you're chronically taking NSAIDs, trying to figure out what's driving inflammation and making sure that your lifestyle and your nutritional habits reflect of somebody who wants to have a low inflammatory environment. Um, and then just cascading its effects on hormones. So understanding the impacts of microbiome disruption. So disruption of the microbiome triggers systemic inflammation. It can lead to leaky gut, causing hormonal imbalances, including estrogen dominance, thyroid disruption. Ultimately, what most people come into this program for is sleep, mood, overall health. Your GI, your hormones are direct impacts of those things. So uh, being able to get a better understanding of what you're putting in your body, I think is a great place to start. So that is the end of that. I wanted to pause and see if we have any questions in regards to slides first, and if not, just any general questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, good to see you.
I know, good to see you guys. Okay, actually, when I hopped on, or I was preparing to join you guys, like what you talked about is pretty much exactly what I had questions about, so that's pretty cool. Um, Based on my results and the discussion that I had with you, Justin, um, I had a methylation issue, and I realized I'm kind of at like a I don't know, kind of like a lose-lose issue here. So I understand my problem may have been caused by a lack of B6, B12, folate, um, which, yeah, I'm gonna like increase and stuff. But I noticed a lot of or one of the supplements that you suggested had like a huge amount, you know what I mean? Like 10,000% or something. And I do know that in the past, like, particularly like those B6, B12 mainly, folate? No, probably not folate. I don't know. B6, B12 for sure, like just made the cystic acne that I was dealing with even worse in the past. So it's like I need to up something, but then at what cost? Like what is the issue? Why is it why is it a problem if it's trying to be a solution as well? And I'm thinking like maybe supplementation, I can try to do that, but or just really increase foods, that have all of that in it. But I understand I'd have to eat like pounds of like spinach or whatever to get enough. Like I'm just kind of stuck here. I don't know.
Yeah, the first thing I would do is I would kick the ball to Ashley and ask her if she's ever seen. We just talk gut and skin, and then I'll go into methylation. The B vitamins potentially causing any acne because there is direct interaction with microbiome and B vitamins, to my understanding. So I would love to hear her thought, and then I could go a little bit deeper with you.
Okay.
So was this, did you get the acne after taking B vitamins, or you're saying like you're thinking lack thereof? I'm just curious, your correlation specifically.
Ooh. I mean, it was an issue that started, I don't know, like 10 years ago, but oh, so I guess at that point, I don't know.
Okay, no, that's okay. That's okay. I was just curious. So, B vitamins are basically accelerators. So like metabolic accelerators. So
Oh,
if
you know
your
what?
gut,
I do remember though, like if I already had some like, that I was dealing with, it would just make them worse, like the inflammation would just go way
yeah,
up and that sort of
yeah,
thing, probably cause more. But
yeah. Yeah, interesting. So, I mean, B vitamins in general can like change how your skin bacteria behave, right? Especially B12. And so B12, especially if there's a lot of it, can increase that inflammation and cause more of it. But if you have disruption in your gut, it just aggravates it even more. So you have basically immune activation and inflammation. You add in B vitamins, and it basically, think of it as like gas on the fire. It's just amplifying everything. It can basically like feed the wrong things, essentially. Okay. And so there are certain bacteria that love B vitamins in a bad way. So you add it in, you're basically, like I said, you're just fueling it. Like certain, like SIBO type things, certain toxins, inflammation, it just makes it worse. So, there are things, methylated Bs, high dose B complexes can speed up your detox. It increases kind of that like cell turnover. And then you're basically metabolizing it faster than you can clear it, essentially. And your skin becomes the brunt of that, because that's like it's one of the it's one of the ways we get rid of things, right? And so
yeah.
skin is one of the places. And especially acne on our face. And so, yeah, basically it amplifies all of that. B12 is one of the biggest ones. B6 is another one. The complex is basically just like a dump of all of it. Lower doses of it are better. There are certain types too, like hydroxycobalamin. I hate these, versus methylated ones.
Oh,
And
like
folinic acid
synthetic
versus
more.
methylated folate. They're usually better tolerated when there's already imbalance. But I would always start with the gut. If you can rebalance your microbiome, make sure that you have good motility, make sure things are flowing, because that's when things back up. That's really important. And so the other thing is making sure you're not doing too many things at once. So don't try to detox into the B vitamins and work on your gut health all at once. I would like work on it slowly. But they're all important. I just wouldn't dump it all in the same day, because that's just too much.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah.
I like
We'll
where
need
you like
detox.
that a lot. And I was going to go a little bit deeper with, and Ashley kind of teed that up perfectly for me. So I like the term metabolic enhancers. You're going to get your B vitamins. And I think I want to start my conversation this way. I'm sorry, let me go back. Everybody always tells you to eat healthy and you need your vitamins and minerals. And as a kid, I never liked like listening to anything unless I knew the why. And the older I get and the more I look at this stuff, I'm like, oh, that's why you should take B vitamins, or that's why you need magnesium or zinc. This is a sample report. Say like you're trying to figure out what you need and you're worried about overdoing them. Again, I understand things cost money, but if somebody wanted to get like a better understanding, um, your bees are going to play a really big role in several processes. So this is the citric acid cycle. You can see B1, B2, B3, B5 play a role in here, CoQ10. So when she talks about it being like a metabolic amplifier, it totally does. It's going to improve how your cells move. Again, you may not be deficient in all of those B vitamins. So really being able to pinpoint and figure out what you need help with. So we identified a methylation issue. Where within that chain of methylation processes is there an issue? I talked about several cycles being impacted here earlier. So, is it a B2, a B3? Is it a trimethylglycine? Do you need more B6 to reduce down and make glutathione? So this is where further testing probably would be helpful for you to understand what cofactors are needed to help reduce this process and um, help with methylation. The interesting piece with like methylation and detoxification, a lot of those same vitamins are going to have a lot to do with tryptophan metabolism and neurotransmitter production. You can see different Bs are going to play a role in the reduction of tyrosine, L-DOPA, dopamine. So really understanding where you're deficient in this process would probably be uh, the best case scenario. So if you're dealing with acne, you don't want to overdo the Bs, you could potentially look at this. I've ran this for a couple people, more in the realm of autoimmunity, because I want to see why they're chronically fatigued and tired. And you can get in here and really get some specifics on those processes to figure out where you're high or low at. So what I will do, if you want to just peek at it on your downtime, I know this is uh, lunch break for a lot of people, and you may not be able to do a deep dive. I'm going to drop this here in the chat as a PDF. And let me make sure this is the sample report. Yes. Um, let's see, file. Bear with me. I'm going to get this in. Is that helpful for you? Maybe having some more targeted testings and things to look at for your unique situation.
Yeah. Will you put something in the chat or no?
I'm going to. It's being
Okay.
difficult. Let me find it. Here it is. Open. Boom. And uh, Mosaic Diagnostics, they do all kinds of really cool testings. This is one that I've been kind of obsessing with because we do a lot of GI and hormones and adrenals, and I don't really know anybody really going too far in depth in like mitochondria function, detoxification. So this test is really robust. This could be something that would bring value. You may be overdoing B12, for an example, or you may have enough B6. B6 can be toxic. So you really need to understand where you are within the those levels, specifically if you're having negative symptoms associated with overdoing B vitamins.
Okay. Would that, I mean, obviously that would tell me if I'm underdoing them too. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I find it really helpful for all different cases. You could get a lot of good information on detoxification. You could also get a lot of good information on low energy production, just varies person to person, but it's pretty robust testing. And yeah, I would check it out when you had time.
okay, awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Do we have any more questions today? We're happy
Oh,
to.
I do
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, go for it.
Uh, it's not a piece of paper. Um, I mean, I guess maybe this test could help figure that out too. Um, NAC or glutathione. I know one is kind of like helps you create more. Like, how do you know which one you need? Maybe that test would say.
It does
Um,
show NAC
okay.
protection. Uh, what I would say for a lot of people, specifically like with methylation, glutathione or NAC are the end products of that. So I see a lot of advertisement online because I get bombarded with stuff in my feed too of like, hey, support your detoxification with glutathione. And my thought process with that is if you're just putting in the end product, what about all of that's spinning up top? If you're not managing those other cycles, just because you added glutathione doesn't mean it's going to make all those other cofactors reduce down and work appropriately. So I'm a bigger proponent because I've used injectable glutathione off and on for some time. I've taken liposomal, NAC. The only thing that's really been able to reduce my homocysteine is replacing all of those B vitamins. I have not had any negatives of taking a high dose B, but if you have a methylation issue, you're going to need a higher percentage. So if you look at that homocysteine supreme product I recommended, it's like 10,000% of your B12 and 4,000 of B6. So it is very high dose, which it could create issues for some people. So I think to answer your question, I would probably look at something like this, pinpoint what I need, and then if you need additional glutathione on top of that, maybe you don't convert it through cystathionine or some of those other processes. You could take NAC or glutathione on top of that.
Okay.
I'll jump in too because I know you were asking, like, kind of comparing the two. They can both kind of offer the same thing, but they do it a little differently. So, like, NAC is the precursor to it. It helps build glutathione, and glutathione's like the active, like, antioxidant, right? And glutathione can be faster just because obviously you don't have to convert it into it. But it's also more gentle. So NAC kind of ramps up detox more intensely. So it can, again, kind of depends on where your body is in terms of detoxification. NAC can be more intense feeling because of that, because it ramps up detox more. I like NAC better for long term, and glutathione for, like, okay, we need it right now sort of thing, if that helps at all.
And it would be like an
And
either or
it could, I mean, it could be. I mean, there's lots of ways to, it kind of, yes, or what you need it for, essentially. So, like NAC is increasing that glutathione production. It really supports the detoxification. Some people don't handle that well, honestly. Like, sometimes that's too intense. It can feel intense. It can make people kind of feel loopy or whatever. It metabolizes toxins really quickly. If you do have dysbiosis and stuff like that, it can also disrupt biofilms. But like I said, it can make people feel loopy. It can make people feel nauseous, kind of wired and tired. So it's just, for sensitive bodies, sometimes that's harder. Now, some people tolerate it perfectly. So that's not to scare you off by any stretch. I feel like glutathione's better with, like, oxidative stress and calming inflammation, and it's better tolerated, and it's more gentle. So yeah.
all right. Well, thank you.
I think all of those are good feedbacks. I think kind of a other low tiered player that I think is helpful for a lot of things is glycine. Glycine's going to help feed in and make glutathione. So you could look at it through a couple different angles. I think glycine's great just because it helps me sleep and relax. And so, yeah, I would say testing. If you don't want to test, you could try those things and just see what works out for you, and then keeping a log of all those effects, because some are going to be positive, some are going to be negative, and then having your own biofeedback to work off of. But yeah, I would say the methylation is definitely an interesting topic, and it impacts more people, and there's a lot of other issues that can happen with methylation issues. So yeah, I hope we are able to answer that for you the best we could.
Yeah, no, very helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Think we got a couple minutes to maybe take one more if anybody has any other questions.
I just wanted to pop in and add to that, the glutathione thing. I'm a super sensitive person to glutathione. I've taken liposomal like one cap, and I had like anxiety attacks when I just took it. And I've seen other people take liposomal glutathione shots. So just know what kind of person you are and recognize that could be a part of the process. But I've seen a lot of people take it and they feel nothing. So that's just an anecdotal. We're all so freaking different. It's quite amazing. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Thank you, Charlotte. All right. Well, I'm going to go touch some grass for 6 minutes between my next call. I hope you all do the same, because it's dark and staring at computer screens are not great for you all day. So thank you all for joining. It's great as always. And I hope everybody has a great week. See ya.